Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm happy for and thankful for that brief family reunion that we had for some of our ODE people. But at this time, I would ask everybody if you could please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras to reserve bandwidth during today's presentation. Now, when she begins to ask questions and you're speaking, if you could turn your cameras on and, of course, unmute your microphone so that we can then engage in today's presentation. Thank you for attending today's Brown Bag, presented as I'm admitting people in. Presented as a learning lab. My name is Shannon Teague. I serve as the Assistant Director within the Office of Improvement and Innovation. Here in our office, we work to identify and share best practices and continuous improvement strategies for our schools, school districts, and community organizations who partner with us to support Ohio students in the most need. In order to be effective in doing so, however, we understand we must continue on our educational and growth journey. So with that, it is with special excitement I introduce today's speaker, Charmaine Davis-Bay. Charmaine works in our office as an education program specialist. She was offered an opportunity by the Ohio Afterschool Network, one of our community partners, to participate in the White-Riley-Peterson Fellowship Program. Upon acceptance to the program and approval by the department, Charmaine began this 10-month experience in August 2019. She traveled to Furman University from October 6th through the 11th and proudly graduated last week on June 10th. It's important to share this experience with colleagues, understand how this experience can improve our work in the field, and how we can support next step efforts. With that, please join me in welcoming Charmaine Davis-Bay.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for that warm welcome. It is truly an honor and a privilege to present this information to you all. To many of you on the presentation during the webinar today, many of you are coming from internal as ODE staff and employees and leadership as well, but we also have some external stakeholders and some of my fellow colleagues that are a part of this as well. And I'll make sure to introduce them as we get along in the presentation. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the presentation. Again, thank you all for joining me this afternoon. And let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so today, the goals for everyone that is participating include understanding the goals of the policy project that I was tasked to create and complete as part of my work as a White-Riley-Peterson Fellow. This will consist of an overview of the fellowship program and knowledge acquired that assisted me with forming this project. We'll discuss today how this project will be used to affect ODE policy via the 21st Century Community Learning Center's grant program. And then finally, reviewing next steps of this critical project work in the short term and in the long term. I'm also going to cut off my camera as well because of bandwidth. Just remember that. All right, moving on. Formally introducing myself, as Shannon mentioned, I am Charmaine Davis-Bay. As part of my experience coming in to ODE, or the Ohio Department of Education, for those that are on the call outside of ODE, I have been with the department almost 4 years. July 5th will be my 4-year anniversary. Previous to that, I worked in several after and out of school time programs, one in Cleveland, 2 in the Columbus area. My journey academically to support the work that I'm doing came at a little bit of an interesting journey. I received my BA in communications from Xavier University of Ohio about 15 years ago, 2005. I also have an MBA from the University of Phoenix. I then, as part of my work in this space, went back for my master's in education, which is an educational psychology degree with focus in student learning and well-being from the University of Missouri-Columbia in December of 2018. And, you know, obviously 2 years later, I was then selected to be a White-Riley-Peterson Policy Fellow in the spring and summer of 2019. Professionally, this is the work that I do for our programs and districts across Ohio as part of the work that I do. But outside of this role as an education program specialist supporting our 21st century grantees now in the Northeast and Southwest regions, I found other ways to use my experience in after and out of school time to make positive youth impact. And so in my presentations, for some that have seen me present outside of ODE, I always like to include this information to highlight why I serve in this space. Being a public servant is an honor, but I do so because of those that you are looking at right here. So before I begin, I want to be clear on the definition of what after and out of school time or OST represents. This includes before, after, summer learning and or child care programs, which includes the 21st Century Community Learning Center's grant program. My journey in this space came, and I always tell the story that I kind of fell into this work as I worked with several high school students in the Cleveland Heights area that assisted me with a personal fundraiser for a cancer organization. And I was so impressed by them that later on that summer, I met some of the staff from the after school and out of school time program they were affiliated with, at which time I expressed interest in working with them. 6 months later, I received an interview that was February of 2013. 6 months after that, after I was hired that February, 6 months after that, I was hired or promoted to be a site coordinator for Euclid High School, their Euclid High School site. And that is where I gained much of my experience supporting high school students, which included high school college prep coach, a creative leadership institute mentor, summer internship program coordinator, and then of course the high school campus coordinator for this program in Cleveland, which is Open Doors Academy. And then from October 15 until June 2016, I was then a program mentoring coordinator for the Godman Guild here in Columbus, as well as a 21st Century Site Coordinator for the YMCA of Central Ohio. These are students that I worked with at the program at Open Doors Academy. The first picture on the far left is me and some of the students in Harlan, Kentucky, where we participated in a service immersion trip, a week-long service immersion trip over the summer. And I did that 3 summers in a row, which was a feat. Very interesting, but I love the experience. The middle is a part of summer internships that our high school students took part in. And that student, Chandrea, is still living in the Cleveland area. I believe she goes to Lake Erie College. She's doing really well. And then the far right picture is of one of our students that came out of the Cleveland Heights high school program. She just recently graduated from Xavier University of Ohio, in which I fully supported. Anytime I would come in to visit campus, me and her always connected. I made sure she, if she needed some help or had questions, I was there to support her. And once she graduated, I sent her a nice little alumni care package. So it was really nice to see her transition from me knowing her from 9th grade through her senior year at Xavier. So just the relationships built helped me to support them academically and non-academically in my time in the after and out of school space. And then outside of my professional work in this space, I've also currently am affiliated with several organizations. One is the Spear Foundation, which represents Sigma in public, Sigma Public Education and Research Foundation. This foundation operates across the United States. I am the Central Region representative for this organization, and as part of our work every year, we go to a different location across the country to provide prevention and intervention programming for young girls. The pictures that you see here, the one on the far left is at Camp Joseph Scott in Santa Clarita, California. This took place in April of last year. I took a week off to travel there to do intervention programming for young ladies in the juvenile correctional facility there, which is connected to the LA County Office of Education. And on the far right, I did some prevention programming, which included some vision boarding with young ladies as part of a conference for young girls. And so with that, I just wanted to share that outside of my professional experience, I still do this work because I love it that much. And I believe with all my heart that 21st century is important to our students, because if we don't address these underlying issues that they may encompass or that may come up as part of their learning experience, it can limit their access to success. And so I wanted to share a quick quote. While it is important to educate children, what is much more pressing is the need to love them. When education becomes more important than love, it is no longer education at all. 4, tending to the delicate spirit of children is foundational if education is to fulfill its intended purpose of serving the greater whole. This in large part is understanding that our youth is to identify how we can best support them, but most importantly, believe in them, pour into them, and love them, and understanding them and their needs. And again, as you learn more about the importance of after and out of school time, I just like to throw in some different quotes or verbiage that'll help you to greatly understand the importance of this work. And so I wanted to go into, and that should not be that way, and I apologize. The title says, what is the White-Riley-Peterson Policy Fellowship? And so as you can see, this is a picture. I am proud to share, this is a picture of my entire cohort. We call ourselves hashtag the Great Eight, as we are the 8th class. And so a little bit about this program. The White-Riley-Peterson Policy Fellowship is a 10-month learning experience offered by the Riley Institute at Furman in partnership with the Charles S. Mott Foundation. The fellowship is named for the late William S. Wright, or Bill White, who was the chairman of the board of the Mott Foundation, former education secretary under President Bill Clinton, Richard W. Riley, and he is pictured actually next to me on the right, and Dr. Terry Peterson, who is next to Senator Riley, who I can go on and on about. He's done a lot as far as this work is concerned. He is the executive editor of the Expanding Minds and Opportunities Compendium, which I will reference more of during this presentation. He is also a senior fellow at the College of Charleston and a consultant to the Mott Foundation. He's also served as chief education deputy for an education reform governor and the U.S. Secretary of Education, Riley, as you said, both for 8 years. And so as part of this work, we were surrounded by those with ample experience and knowledge with regards to this work. So it was really great to learn from them. Each of those 3 that I mentioned are all instrumental in the growth of after school and summer learning programs and policies. The 3 of them, along with their team, were also instrumental in helping grow and strengthen the 21st Century Community Learning Centers program from serving 1,500 students in 10 sites in 1997 with $1 million federal appropriation to now providing annually expanded learning opportunities and enrichment in after school and summer programming to almost 2 million students in 11,000 schools and neighborhood centers with a $1.2 billion annual appropriation. Grounded in deep discussion of actual case studies and led by policy change makers, the fellowship equips graduates with a real-world understanding of the art, science, possibilities, and realities of policymaking around after school and expanded learning time. So with that, I'm just going to share something very powerful with regards to those that are involved with this work that I had the pleasure of working with. Idaho, Washington State, Oregon, North Carolina, Ohio, Michigan, Wyoming, New Jersey, Kansas, Maryland, New Mexico, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Minnesota, California, West Virginia. These are the 16 states that represented 16 dynamic individuals, all experienced and dedicated to the field of after and out of school time and the importance of its impact on our youth and families. These are the 16 that I was fortunate enough to work with in this space. And so actually some of them are with us today. I know I saw Shauna. Shauna is from Connecticut. John Unger is from West Virginia. Senator John Unger is from West Virginia. Jeff McConnelly is from New Mexico. Tiana Glenn is from Charlotte, North Carolina. So thank you all for being here today. They know as much as we've shared amongst each other the importance that us coming together really impacted the work that we did with this process. And so I just wanted to acknowledge them and thank them for being here. And Brandon from Kansas is on here as well. I saw him. So thank you all for being here today, as well as Kathy Stevens and Ron Fairchild, who wanted to be here today, but unfortunately they had another meeting. And so that's why their recording is so important. Their leadership allowed us to learn and experience things to help us to create and manifest our policy projects. Examples of our work include Zong Dang, and I believe she's on the call as well. She's from Minnesota. Her work encompasses supporting community schools and targeted services with leveraging funding streams to support after-school summer learning programs in Minnesota, which included developing a task committee for policy analysis on best practices, as well as Tynesha Gibbs, who works for their version of the New Jersey After School Network, and her project is involving the inclusion of special needs students in 21st century programs, which I believe that framework is going to change the discussion on how we include students in need, special needs students across the country. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that those are just several examples of the work that this cohort is bringing out with regards to after and out of school time in our states. And so some examples of the workshop sessions that we attended included framing the fellowship, which gave us a brief overview of what to expect during our time in this program. And these workshop sessions took place during an intensive week at Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, from October 6th through the 11th, as Shannon mentioned earlier. Getting it on paper, setting targets, establishing milestones, and prioritizing strategies in developing my policy project, as well as behind the scenes at the very top of the U.S. Department of Education, how to navigate changing politics and yet implement large-scale education reforms and improvements. I would say, as part of me being the only representative from an SEA in this cohort, a lot of what I was experiencing in these workshops was me just learning the process of advocacy, the difference between advocacy and lobbying, and what I can and cannot do as a education program specialist who works for an SEA, but also to understand the difference in how I can still support in this work in my own way. And so a lot of these workshops did just that, and I'm happy to say that I am much more knowledgeable than I was going in. There's some other examples: building state momentum for summer policy, a case study. This looked at some information coming out of California, which was very informative. The history of the 21st Century Community Learning Centers program. So we actually were the first to look at a never before seen video of the history of 21st century, which included interviews by the 3 men that the fellowship is named after, including Mr. White. He actually passed. As we were watching this video, we found out that he had passed away. And the day before his passing, there was a video of him being acknowledged by the Mott Foundation. And so before he passed, he was given his flowers, which we were really happy to know. And it just helped us to appreciate this experience that much more. And I believe Dr. Peterson was in the room as well when we found out. So it was just very interesting that we were in that space watching the video and learning more about the history of 21st century. And then my favorite workshop was communicating effectively, making the case for after school and expanded learning time. My cohort knows that this is my favorite because of an experience that we had when we were sharing out our mantras. And so I've shared this with some of you all before, but as we were sharing out our mantras, one of my 3 was everything happens for a reason, and I explained why. And after the workshop was over, one of my cohort members, Tiana, she had a bracelet with the same quote on it. And so she gave that to me, and that is something that I cherish to this day. And so again, much of these experiences where we came together, we had a great flow. Everyone came to the table willing to learn. Phenomenal people that are all passionate and really pushing to make great change within this space, within their states. And so this week changed how I look at after not a school time, and I will never forget this experience. So I just wanted to share some examples of what our workshops looked like and how it prepared us for our work after we came back to our states. And so going to the compendium book that I mentioned earlier that was edited by Dr. Peterson, research has shown that expanded learning opportunities are highly successful in improving older youth's academic performance, college and career preparation, social and emotional development, and health and wellness. In the state of Ohio, 21st century programs serving high school aged youth has been traditionally lower in attendance than those serving other younger grade levels. As of FY19, 49 programs serving approximately 2,400 high school students out of 212 active grants serving approximately 12,792 students. This shows a great disparity. And I do get that this is not a high level data display, but I just wanted to show you the importance of noting that when it comes to serving high school students compared to the whole of all programs that we were serving as part of 21st century, it's important that we find a way to bridge the gap so that we're looking at better matriculation from the elementary and middle high school component to the high school component. Feedback from program managers that I experienced, that I received during our on-site monitoring visits, would generally summarize the need for buy-in for higher attendance when it comes to high school. And it's due to a number of things. Students have more flexibility and freedom to choose other things such as sports, clubs, jobs, home responsibilities. But the need is still great for our programs to assist students with completing high school graduation requirements and achieving skills and experience related to their college and or career path. How do we do that? Other states such as California have found that within their partnership with the LA County Office of Education's Assets Program for 21st Century and the California After School Network, they have created a startup guide publication to help those who would like to serve high school students achieve just that. So the question would be, what does that look like for Ohio? And so that's where the policy project idea came into play. And again, this is primarily based on my experience working with high school students, but then looking at the data, I found that there is a greater need to better prepare those who would like to serve high school students with the opportunity to then say, what does that look like for the students that we serve? Because not every program is the same. It shouldn't be the same because you're hitting the targeted population of students based on their needs. And so with that, the goals of this policy project encompass every high school in Ohio, public, private, or charter, having access to knowledge, assisting them with creating a quality after-school program that is focused on college, career, workforce ready, and service learning development, while encouraging a year-round after and out-of-school time education. And so this will happen in part through access to a comprehensive startup guide or toolkit. And this would be in collaboration with the department and the Ohio Department of Education. As Shannon mentioned, is one of our community partners and a critical piece as far as the work that we do in the after and out of school time space. So we were looking at partnering with OAN for a contract that will essentially create this toolkit to assist those districts or community-based organizations with developing a program that fits the needs of their students. In hindsight, the goal would be with that information to provide a certification where if they chose to move forward with applying for 21st century funding, for example, then they would be equipped to tell us just that, how they would be able to, with the information that they learned from this toolkit, training and certification, how they would be able to serve those students that they would like to do that. This project came into fruition not just due to previous experience, but understanding that disparity between our 21st century program serving high school and those serving elementary and middle. So again, I just felt that it was really important to think of what's really important to support this critical targeted population in order to ensure that they have success post-secondary. So quickly, I wanted to, for those that are on the call from outside of ODE, We have a strategic plan for education, and this is what our one-pager looks like that kind of breaks down the elements of our plan. And so I'll just highlight a few areas, and I will go back and refer to this as part of my presentation shortly, but I just wanted to take a little bit of time to explain what this looks like in relation to our work. And so in the middle, as you can see, the whole child is at the center of the plan, which means that our focus will be on the physical, social, emotional, and intellectual development of our students. There are 3 core principles, 4 learning domains, and 10 priority strategies that work together to support the whole child. And so our 3 core principles include equity, partnerships, and quality schools. And all of this, again, in tandem, works with the 4 equal learning domains, which includes foundational knowledge and skills, well-rounded content, leadership and reasoning, as well as, most importantly, social emotional learning, which encompasses self-awareness and management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And then lastly, we have 10 priority strategies, two of which actually focus specifically on supporting the whole child. I'm sorry, one of which. And so the strategic plan trumps the following collectively developed vision. In Ohio, each child is challenged to discover and learn, prepared to pursue a fulfilling post-high school path, and empowered to become a resilient lifelong learner who contributes to society. And as I mentioned, these are our 4 learning domains. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to let the slide do its thing. So here, number 7, this is the strategy, the priority strategy that focuses on meeting the needs of the whole child. It talks about working together with parents, caregivers, and community partners to help schools meet the needs of the whole child. That is the goal as well with the 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant program. And so we find that this priority strategy directly aligns with the work that we do. And so I wanted to make sure that was highlighted, as well as number 10 of our priority strategies, which is high school success and post-secondary connections. Ensuring that high school inspires students to identify paths and future success, and give students multiple ways to demonstrate the knowledge, skills, and dispositions necessary for graduation and beyond. In high school, each child should see the relevance of his or her learning to be exposed, to be practical, real-world work settings, and begin to define his or her future. This would include what the department is doing as far as updating graduation requirements and honoring the importance and connecting with career technical education, or CTE. And so if you want to know more information about our strategic plan, please go to our website, education.ohio.gov/strategic plan, and where you can find more information there. Okay, I'm gonna take a breather. Some discussion. As I was thinking of how to engage you all as part of this presentation, I don't want to be that one where I'm just talking the whole time. Many of you who have seen me present before know that I love to engage, and so this is no different. So as part of the discussion, which you can either mute yourself or put something in the chat, I just wanted to know, based on your experience, what after or out of school time programs or post-secondary supports did you have access to in high school? And how did that impact your journey to be where you are today? So I would just love if a few of you can share from your experience, how that looked for you and how that impacted who you are as a professional today.
Hey, Charmaine. This is
Hi.
Terry. How are you?
Hey, Terry. Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I didn't have access to, but I've spent a bunch of my family members worked with like TRIO and Upward Bound programs, those after school programs that supported first generation college students. My mom has 14 brothers and sisters, and I'll say half of them, all have college degrees to this day because of these after school programs.
Wow. Yeah, and yeah, TRIO and Upward Bound, those are great examples, really great examples of what would be considered as out of school time programming. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Hi, Charmaine. This is Nina Pace.
Hi, Nina.
I was just wanting to add, I too did not have access to after school programming because during that period it was based on income. And because I was over income, I did not have access. I saw a lot of the resources that could benefit me during that time, and was benefiting some of my friends.
Mhm.
So now I was interested in being able to be part of an after school program or a program that could provide benefits. So I feel that now being part of the implementation or talk about what's needed is very important. So I didn't have access to it, and now I do from a different perspective.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that perspective, Nine. And I think people need to know that, 21st century hasn't always been around, but I think the concept of serving those in need in that space is important to note. And so not everyone that wanted to may have had access because the availability of programming was for those that didn't, that needed that additional support. So I appreciate you sharing that and how that means for you now. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to share? I'll take one more, two more.
Sure. Charmaine, this is Stacy Brinkley.
Hi, Stacey.
And thank you for your presentation. I think this is wonderful. I can talk a little bit about my experiences for after school programs. And one of them happened to come from the Ohio State University and the, I think it was called the Model Neighborhood facility in Columbus, Ohio. At the age of 7, I was exposed to students who were studying engineering at the Ohio State, and they taught us, I just remember clearly, we had to learn some, different little math problems and things like that, but they taught us how to build transistor radios. So I just remember very early on having the opportunity to enhance my reading, enhance my math as a young child in the inner city at that time, and having exposure to college. So, and for me, that shaped my experience, as of this year, 30 years in education, of working with students to make sure that they have those same opportunities, having had a chance to work with TRIO programs and to write those grants. So I believe that in participating at a young age and having some other opportunities in there helped me to be able to pay it forward in those actual roles in TRIO programs, and even now looking at how districts are serving children. So, so thank you for the presentation, and thank you for the opportunity to share.
You are so welcome, Dr. Stacy Brinkley. I have to make sure I emphasize that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I know that, when we were in the office, you talked a lot about the students that you worked with, specifically at OU. And I'm taking it that was a part of your experiences coming out of the experience that you had at OSU. So I really appreciate you sharing your feedback and about your experience with this space. So thank you. I appreciate that. Is there one more person that would like to share? Maybe someone that's not from the department? I would love to hear someone that would like to share their experience if they have one, if you feel comfortable. Anyone?
Hi, Charmaine. It's Tiana. I'll share.
Hi.
So I was a kid that was always involved in something. Like I loved staying after school. So anything I could join, I was that kid. So I joined clubs as young as, I believe, maybe my last year in elementary school. I played the violin, so that was like a club after school. But when I think about all the programs I joined, like, they definitely contributed to my life. So I was in forensics in middle school, and I think that helped me when it comes to public speaking. I was a part of SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions, in high school. And with that opportunity, it allowed me to become a student advisory board member for the state of North Carolina. So I think that helped me with leadership. I think there's a lot of clubs that I joined that just kind of contribute to different things, a part of my life. I didn't realize it until we started this fellowship, where I really kind of sat back and thought about it. Like there are a lot of clubs that I participated in that really made me who I am. And sometimes we forget those things. So sometimes it's really nice to kind of sit back and think about your time at high school and middle school, whether it was a club or maybe a sport, or maybe even an elective in school like choir or band. A lot of things that make us who we are today come from those experiences.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I thank you so much, Diana, for sharing your experience. And again, as mentioned earlier, Diana's from Charlotte, North Carolina. She was previously affiliated with MEC Ed. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yes,
that's right.
She's currently doing work with another organization, but this is the woman that I referred to earlier in my story, and so I'm always going to have a special place in my heart for you and all of my fellows. And so I appreciate you sharing your experience and how that's supported you in the profession that you are today. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And so again, this discussion just proves the power of after school is real, because again, many of us, without having some type of support, I myself was affiliated with several programs, including one that prepared me to go to Xavier University. I would not be the person that I am today without those experiences, not as structured as the programs that we currently serve through 21st Century, but enough to get an idea of a future with the support of programs within my community, in all of our communities. So let's go ahead and move on. We still have a couple more slides. And so as part of this work, there were several identified indicators that helped me to pace myself to ensure that the work was being done in relation to being able to speak with you all today. And so the goal by the end of December was to have office leadership on board with the submission of contract development and implementation. And so the idea, once I came up with the idea for my policy project, there was discussion with Shannon to ensure that I was on the right track. And once she gave me the go ahead to start developing the contract language, once that was done and she looked at it, we then met with Cindy, who agreed that this was a great move as far as the work and how it aligned with the work of the agency, as well as how to support 21st Century. And so that's where things kind of moved forward from there. And then January, we were working on the discussion about the learning lab, which, there was discussion. But then, as I'm going to mention later, there was, some obvious barriers that kept us from being in person with each other to actually do the lab. But now we're here. And so we were able to revamp how this information was going to be presented. And so these were the identified indicators. And although they may seem kind of simple in nature, for me, because the work was just simply saying, this is what we need. These are the steps that we're going to take to ensure that this is a part of the work, that it just kind of flowed. And so I was happy to use that as part of the work to gauge my completion of this project. So obviously some challenges. So currently the contract work that I was working on is currently on hold until further notice due to COVID-19 related budget cuts. Our program has some other projects that are priority. And so we're, working to ensure that this work is still there, that the discussion is still there. That's why this presentation is so important, to inform the work that is currently happening and what will happen once there is funding. But again, that was a huge challenge because, the flow that was happening kind of dried a little, but there's still hope. And so I just wanted to note that this was a part of the challenges that were experienced. And so an overview of the accomplished tasks with this policy project thus far include working to conduct research on how other states place priority or focus on 21st century funded high school programs. And so again, as this work continues, the goal is to create this toolkit condensing or bringing together a number of resources that will support students as far as their college and career readiness goals, workforce ready, service learning, and bring that together. And so those programs that want to support high school students will have those resources. The contractor will work to then provide training and supports for these programs. And the goal would then be to allow for priority and focus to take place within our 21st century grant competition. And so I had to look at what other states were doing in that. So I looked at California and I also looked at Kansas. Kansas to me was very appealing because they not only have, they have several options for priority. One for sure is with, I'm looking at their RFA. They have a competitive priority for school redesign, and they also have competitive priority for any high school programs. And so those that would like to provide programming for high school students, they have to provide certain information as far as a narrative. They have to conduct a high school student interest survey, provide a recruitment retention plan, and define a clearly identified need. And so this also must be evident in their budget summary and budget narrative. And so it's important that in my research, I noted that, you know, there are states that have been really successful with providing competitive priority points within their 21st century programs, and how can this project support us then acquiring or giving high school programs in Ohio a better opportunity to be funded through training them on how to produce a quality program and to serve students in Ohio. As well as me participating throughout this fiscal year with a pilot program for after-school entrepreneurship focused Ohio Meets Jobs Readiness Seal. And so this program was conducted along with, it was with the Ohio After-School Network, Nichelle Shaktis, who is the executive director. She is on the call. I saw you log in earlier. Hello. The Young Entrepreneurship Institute with Liz Nuskin and Kelly Biggar, and Kayla Mickens with ODE's Career Connections program. So we've been meeting with a group of 21st century grantees who currently serve high school programs to pilot a 5 or 12-week curriculum that will assist them in then achieving this entrepreneurship focused Ohio Meets Jobs Readiness Seal. This is a perfect example of one of the tools or programs that are in Ohio that can be used as part of this toolkit that I would love to see develop in time. And so again, being a part of this pilot program has confirmed that there are programs and resources out there that will allow high school students to be met where they are, that it will allow our districts and community-based organizations to tailor their proposed programs to truly meet the needs of the students that they are serving, so that they want to come to programming, so that they can work their schedule around participating in something like this entrepreneurship focused program to achieve Ohio Meets Jobs Readiness Seal. And so again, these are just examples of things that I've accomplished and hope to incorporate into work moving forward. And so going back to what I discussed as far as the strategic plan, how will this align with that and 21st century? And so my vision, so once you know, us and Ohio After School Network come together within this contract to create this work with the toolkit and the certification process, how to create a needs assessment for our districts and community-based organizations who are looking to serve high school students, or those that are currently serving high school students, to then, you know, kind of tailor their program with this information. For those that would like to apply for 21st century funding, the goal would be by the FY22 or 23 year, when we have the funding, because we will have a number of our continuation plans falling off, and so the funding will then be then available for us to then go into adding competitive priority points. We would incorporate weighted prompts into our option 3 application, which currently serves middle and high school programs. And then priority will be given only if the applicant can clearly show evidence of working with the Ohio After School Network for the toolkit certification to create a program that truly fits a student's needs. So within the narrative, within this application, applicants have to show evidence that through this toolkit / certification program that we'll be working with Ohio After School Network to develop, that they need to show that through this work that they were able to create, they would like to create a program based on ... And so that's the vision here. And I know it may take some time for us to get to this point, but at the very least, once we are able to move forward with the work, the goal is within the next 2 to 3 years to get to a point where we can offer competitive priority points for those serving high school students. So next steps, where does this work go from here? And so looking at what ODE has put into place with regards to our remote learning guide that came out a few months ago once COVID-19 hit, as well as guidance that came from our 21st Century program, I would like to look at ways to enhance the different ways to engage high school students in need of post-secondary prep and supports. And so as we develop this toolkit and certification, we have to be open now as to how we can truly engage our students. Some, because of their personal schedules, won't necessarily be able to come into programming, but what if we can say, hey, let's check in with your site coordinator. Here's, something we can work on together virtually to try to better infuse a stronger use of technology as part of their after school experience, which will allow more flexibility in their schedules. Again, this is just an example of what I would like to consider as part of this work, because with the discussion of the access to technology, it's important to note that, again, there is a disparity there. And in this work, there has been discussion about that across the board. I think it's worth discussing how, with those that have access, that, we're working to give them the access first of all, but once they do have access, how do we incorporate that into their version of programming if they can't necessarily come to programming every day? And so once we get them there, how do we engage them? And so that's a part of the work that I will be doing, that I like to do as part of this work. And so before we end, I wanted to end with a quote. And this is from Dr. Terry Peterson. He actually shared this for my fellows on the call. This is from his speech that Kat sent us. I just pulled part of what he said because I felt that it was really important and something that I took away from as part of this experience. So it says, the focus of many school, nonprofit, and community-based after school and summer programs, especially 21st Century, is on the low income and struggling students, Black, Latino, Asian, White, and Native American. What better way to lift them up and build community by enhancing their opportunities, connections, and their school life chances? So this is the time to go deep, to seek our inner leaders, to send your positive messages, and to remember what we stand for as we move forward into 2020 and 2021, even into 2071, with you in your way, helping to lead the way. During our graduation last week, Dr. Peterson surprised our cohort by sharing some poignant thoughts about the importance of the after and out of school time space and our contributions to it as White-Riley-Peterson Fellows. This quote reminded me of my place in this work, to be open, willing to learn, while looking for opportunities to expand and create a broader reach to those targeted populations in need via the 21st Century Community Learning Centers grant program. I'm sorry.
That is quite all right.
That is a wonderful quote, Charmaine. Thank you. And thank you for the work that you did on this.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
I agree.
It's a powerful way to end.
Before, I'm so sorry.
No apologies necessary.
Not at all. Thanks. Thank you, Charmaine. And, Charmaine, I want you to know that we are very, very proud of you. Job well done.
So proud.
We are so grateful you participated in this fellowship, and we look forward to incorporating this work moving forward. Does anybody have any questions for Charmaine at all?
I don't have a question. This is Stacy. I just want to say kudos to you
Yes.
because this shows your passion. This
Yes.
shows your dedication, and you are truly a champion for the children who need you most. And so I just say to you, Charmaine, whatever opportunities you have to do right for children and to implement these types of programs, to use your influence to make things better for children. Just keep doing what you're doing, and always just include us so that we know, let us know what we need to do as well. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being open, being honest, being vulnerable enough to go through the program and to bring that knowledge that you've gained in working with such wonderful people from across the country in order to serve the children of Ohio. So thank you.
Thank you, Stacey, for that. And I had some final thoughts. I just got caught up because this meant so much to me. And I just wanted to thank Shannon and senior leadership for giving me the opportunity to do this, because I really do care about this work. When we graduated last week, I realized that I was becoming a part of an elite and passionate group of professionals. Now I'm one of 122 of us now that have come through this program. And I'm just so blessed to be a part of this life-changing experience. And I am a stronger person and professional because of it, and I will never forget it. Nichelle, thank you for recommending me.
Yes,
and
I
for
was going to say
OAN.
Nichelle's on.
Yeah, I'm here, and without a doubt, it's obvious that we recommended the right person for this fellowship because
Yes.
just listening to everything you say and how you say it with such conviction and passion. I'm here in tears myself. So just excellent presentation. Thank you, Charmaine, for all you do.
Charmaine, I just wanted to take a moment. This is Marva. Just remembering way back when Nichelle recommended you, and to think here at the end of this journey is truly the beginning of a new journey. I echo so many of the sentiments already stated, and just look to see what you continue to do in the future and bring us alongside so we can continue to learn and cheerlead your efforts.
Thank you, Marva. I that means so much coming from you. I really do appreciate your feedback and your support as well. I'm always going to be willing to come to the table with information to help us do our work better and how to better reach those in need. And so anytime I'm able to step up and do more and to support this work, I'm more than happy to. So thank you so much for your support. And I want to also mention Nichelle. She's also a past fellow. She's cohort 5. I have to always say that because that's also brought our relationship closer as professionals, because she understands how important this work is in this space being a fellow. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. And for everyone my team, to Shannon, to Shar and Nina, I know Tabitha and Ludia are new to our team. But, when I first started this, I was really excited, and I was just sharing, how important I just felt like this was going to be for not just, of course, my career, but also to really deeply connect with this work. And so I just appreciate you all's support in the work that I'm doing here and what I hope to continue to do for 21st Century. And so I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to take away. If anyone else had any questions, I see the feedback. I appreciate everyone's support. Yes, the great 8.
Hey, Charmaine. Hey, Charmaine. This is Jeff in New Mexico. Hi. I just wanted to say, kind of on behalf of the cohort, that we're also extremely proud of you and really grateful that you were able to be a part of this. You brought a lot to the work and to the cohort, and great presentation, great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I really do. And I love my cohort, grade 8 forever. I can't wait to outside opens back up again, so we can hopefully meet up again in person at a conference in the future, or just come to support, come together to support each other in our work. I just, Kat and Ron, I know aren't here, but I thank them. I thank Senator Riley. If you've ever been to Greenville, South Carolina, he is everywhere. He not only has a building on campus at Furman University, but he also has a statue in the middle of the downtown Greenville, and we all have a picture together with him, so to speak. But we also met him in person, and he was able to tell us, working under President Clinton's administration, how him and Dr. Peterson and Mr. White and their team of experts were able to really bring out the importance of after school and where we are today with 21st century. And so I will never forget this experience ever. And I really appreciate everyone that came on today, provided feedback, asked questions. And if you have any additional questions afterwards, feel free to reach out. I know I'm trying to finish my presentation. This is my contact information for those that don't have it. I'm always open to having the discussion of any kind related to what you may have heard today, or with regards to after not a school time in 21st century in general. And so unless there are any other questions or thoughts, I thank everyone again for being here today. Oh, yes.
Yeah, so it's Ludia, and I definitely support everything Charmaine is doing, and just beyond being her teammate, she is really passionate. Her passion just really is inspiring, and so it makes me think about some of the work actually going on in the department. I know maybe this is a question more for Marva and maybe Tarek. I know there is an ODE high school redesign group, and I believe that group could definitely leverage a lot of the things that Charmaine learned during this fellowship. And I was just, I guess, wondering, could she have a seat at the table?
Listen to you going on. I'm going to let Eric speak first, since he's a member of that high school redesign team.
Sure. Absolutely, Charmaine. I'm open to entertaining conversations to just see what's already existing. I know you threw up two states, I believe, Kansas and California, and I wrote that information down to touch base with you on that anyway. Just for folks on the phone, the Ohio Department of Education and Johns Hopkins has partnered to put forth a 3-year cohort where we're working with at least six districts in the state of Ohio. We're using Johns Hopkins as a thought partner and as our research, lead. They also have connections all over the United States. So we're working to do a lot of redesign work. We just completed our first cohort in Ohio. And again, as I mentioned, Johns Hopkins is connected with other state departments of education. I believe it's 18 total. And we're just in our first year in completion, and we'll start our second year. So this is timely information to hear, Charmaine. We'll definitely touch base and figure out how to marry the two programs.
Yes, please. I would love to learn more and discuss, with you whatever is currently in place and what I can do to help support the work. Brandon, he is from Kansas. He's actually on the call today. And him and I were going to talk, because I had questions about what that high school redesign piece looks like in Kansas based on what's in their request for applications. And so I'm going to connect with him, soon, to get more information about that and their competitive priority with regards to high school. And that way, once we do have a discussion, I can share some insight based on that versus what is currently happening. So thank you so much.
Sure.
Awesome. Are there any other questions or comments for Charmaine? Awesome. Okay. All right. Charmaine, again, very proud of you. Job well done today. I'm very happy about the support from ODE and your team from the fellowship and from our partners, the Ohio After School Network. And so, with that, I did want to say one shout out. It's very refreshing to be able to have an opportunity to have a venue where quality work can be shared throughout the department and then otherwise. And so I'm happy that Heather Boughton is on the phone. I just wanted to say thank you to her for bringing such a format to our department to allow such great work to be shared. With that, everyone, thank you for attending. Again, thank you, Charmaine. That concludes today's Brown Brag and Learning Lab. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Continue to have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Great job.
Thank you,
Charmaine.
Great
job.
Thank you, Charmaine.
Thanks, Charmaine.